Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Bobby with Tech360.tv and back with another review, a review a lot of you have been waiting for, ourselves included. This is our thoughts on the iPhone XS and XS Max. Now, this design is very reminiscent of the iPhone X, and rightfully so. It's a beautiful design. Apple has knocked it out of the park. We have in our hands right here the gold version. I gotta tell you, personal opinion, I love the gold. Apple has done a beautiful job with the gold color. It's masculine, it's feminine at the same time. It covers all the angles. Oh, and on the watch. I love the gold. Anyway, talking about the display for a moment, I have to say that this display is beautiful. It's high resolution. It is 2688 by 1242. I memorized that for you, 458 ppi for you pixel peepers out there. High resolution, and it's actually great for photo editing. You know what? The one thing I'll say about Apple displays as a whole is they're very color accurate. So if you are into photo editing, you will find yourself getting more of an accurate representation of the photos editing on this than you will on other smartphones, just putting it out there because some are very oversaturated, but Apple's done a tremendous job on it. That's pretty much it about the design of it. It's just bigger. And if you want to put it next to the iPhone XS, it's slightly bigger. Now, comparing it to the iPhone 8 Plus or the 7 Plus or the 6 Plus, since they were all relatively the same, this is a little bit narrower in the hands. It feels very balanced. Where I felt that the 8 Plus and the 7 Plus and the 6 Plus were a little bit big, this feels very comfortable to use. Now, our cameraman is actually looking for the 7 Plus or the 8 Plus that we have here, which we have over there right now. Pass it to me, Kai Hong. We've got the phone right here. There we go. In Apple's reminiscent of their pink, that's right, their rose gold, which was actually pink. So this is the 7 Plus or 8 Plus. What do we got here?
8 Plus.
8 Plus. This is the 8 Plus, because they all look the same, to be honest with you. From 6 to 7 to 8, they all look the same. 8 Plus, XS Max. Put them together. You'll see that the XS Max is slightly more narrower. Slightly. And that narrowness, that little bit makes a big difference in holding it. And you can tell Apple finally got the gold right. I'm gonna keep harping on this gold because I love what Apple did with this gold this year. It's beautiful. Okay, all right, moving on. Let's talk about the cameras. Now, people are saying, well, the cameras are about the same as the 10. No, the cameras are slightly different. There is a bigger sensor in the wide angle lens of the XS Max and the XS, which means better low light, better performance. Talking about the camera, we also have portrait mode with adjustable bokeh. Now, this is not the first time we've seen this in any smartphones out there. We've seen it in Huawei for a few years now, Samsung and other phone makers. However, what Apple's doing is different from them. They're using the True Depth camera system to actually adjust with the bokeh. So instead of just blurring out the background, it's actually sort of moving the subject back and forth a little bit. You'll notice it's a slight change, but it does make the image look more natural. Okay. Besides that, though, there's this thing called Smart HDR. Now, this is, if you've used the Google Pixel 2, you know about this Smart HDR. It's like HDR on steroids, all in all the time. And it's good in some cases, in some cases it's not. I have noticed with my HDR images that there's a slight color hue to them. I can't put my finger on it what it is, if it's something that can be fixed in software, which I'm sure it can be. But I have noticed that the colors are not as accurate as I found in the previous versions of the iPhone, and maybe it's due to that HDR mode, but nonetheless, that's my thoughts on it, but it does work well. If you like HDR mode, you want everything to have detail and clarity, it works as described. Okay, and then let's talk about the front-facing camera, because there's a difference in that as well. This front-facing camera, of course, has that true depth motion. You have that portrait, that adjustable bokeh, and while it's only one lens, they do a tremendous job working with that one lens. And the pictures are clear, they're sharp, they do a great job on their selfies, even though they might not have the highest resolution on their selfie cameras as other phone manufacturers do. So Apple's knocked it out on the park with the cameras, in my opinion. Talking about the front-facing camera, we need to talk about Face ID. Face Unlock is slightly faster than the 10. Slightly. And you can have a secondary look now. Yes, you can have a secondary look. So let's say, hypothetically, you are clean shaven, like I am today. Usually I have a bit of more facial hair. And let's say that I grew out a big beard, right? Now maybe the Face ID won't recognize me with a big beard, but if I take a secondary photo of myself with a big beard, it now has two looks it can differentiate from. See where I'm going with this? Smart move by Apple. But let's move on. Let's talk about another improvement of the phone, and that is the speakers. And the speakers are much, much louder, I gotta tell you. As a matter of fact, it's crazy loud. Let's look up a trailer that just came out. Let's look at Captain Marvel, right, to give you an example of how loud this is. I'm gonna put this close to my mic so you can get a sense of this. And it's got this stereo sound, so it's kind of go from left to right channel. You can hear it. I'm putting it as close to my mic on my show. Right? Not bad. I'm gonna test it with the iPhone 10 that I have here. And you gotta do Captain Marvel again because I like the trailer.
It's a universal language. I know a renegade soldier when I see one.
While this is loud, this is much louder than the XS Max. And you know what? If you're watching content or videos or movies, you're going to appreciate that. So once again, Apple, big improvement. Okay, now let's get into what's underneath the hood. The A12 Bionic processor. We're getting into the Terminator categories of names nowadays with Apple. I mean, they had the A11 Bionic, the A12 Bionic processor. I almost need to start talking like Arnold Schwarzenegger and say, I'm going to be back, I'm going to get you.
Of course, I'm a Terminator.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's what it sounds like when I'm talking about this phone now. Crazy names that Apple's coming up with the processors. But it is a smaller, a 7nm size processor in it now, so it's got better performance, it's faster, it's smooth, it's fluid. I mean, based on the Geekbench scores, it's eating Snapdragon's lunch, that's for sure. I mean, it is kicking some butt. My biggest notice that I have seen in it is that everything just moves much more fluid. Day-to-day usage from the iPhone 10 to the XS Max and the XS, you won't notice a huge difference unless you get into gaming or to get into some graphic intensive apps. But I will say that there is a noticeable improvement. So let's talk about battery life. Now, Apple is touting better battery life in the XS Max and the XS. In the XS, we've got 30 more minutes of battery life. 30 more minutes? But actually, it's a smaller battery than the 10. So where does Apple get this from? Maybe possibly software? Could be processing? But day-to-day usage, it's about the same as the 10. 30 minutes could mean turning on the brightness 25%, okay? So let's call it a draw with the 10. But now, we move to the XS Max. Oh, the battery life is good. I'm getting about 6 hours plus 7 hours of screen on time throughout the day. And I'm a pretty heavy user. I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos. I'm doing a lot of photo editing on this with Lightroom and Photoshop Fix. So my screen's on a lot and it's lasting me throughout the day. So Apple's touting an hour and a half more battery life than the XS. Fair enough. This is a full day battery usage on this. So there you go. XS Max all the way if you want battery life. Let's talk about storage. Now, Apple's sort of stepped it up in storage. Before, they've always been a little bit okay. Max was 256, but they decided to say, screw it. We're going 512 on the XS, on the XS Max. That's a lot. People are going, why do I need that much? Well, you don't really, unless you're shooting a ton of 4K video, a ton of media, you're downloading movies because you don't like to stream, and you want to save everything on your phone, then yes, 512 will last you for a couple of years, probably even more than that. I have 512 on my laptop and I haven't even, I've almost maxed it out because I have a ton of photos. But for the most part on the iPhone, it'll last you a long time. And of course there's iCloud storage and all that stuff. It's great that Apple did it, but you don't need it unless you are a huge media hog. Okay, now we need to talk about iOS 12. iOS 12 is a pretty significant upgrade from iOS 11, even though they roughly look the same. And when you update it, you might go, but I don't really see much of a difference. It's underneath that you're gonna see the difference in terms of performance, in terms of the added benefits. Now, some of the things you'll notice right away is that iOS 12 is faster, and emojis, you have more facial recognition in terms of movements, and you can put there's a big push in augmented reality that you're finding in iOS 12. Monitoring your phone usage, your screen on time, off time, how often you're picking up your phones, what apps you're using the most. All those kind of things are really cool, right? There's a lot of these things, and we'll have probably a separate video on iOS 12 because there's a lot to go through, but I will say that with iOS 12, you're good to go. It's a big upgrade and welcomed upgrade. Now you're probably thinking that I love this phone, it's the best phone, blah, blah, blah. It's a great phone. I do like a lot of it, but there are a few things that I wish were improved. First, let's talk about price. Price is subjective to everybody. Some people find value in different things and will spend a dollar amount on different things versus others. I call the iPhone the Rolex of smartphones. And the reason I say that is because Does Rolex make the best watch in the world? Probably not. That can be argued, right? Same thing with the iPhone. But there's value behind it. There's a consistency, a build quality, software, hardware integration, unlike anyone else out there right now. And Apple has cornered that market. Others are trying to get there, and they're doing well. And I see some competition coming out there. But as of right now, Apple has that, and you're paying for that ecosystem, in my opinion. You're paying for that quality, that value, and that's why I call it the Rolex of smartphones. Having said that, though, in Singapore, we are pricing the iPhone XS Max with 512 gigabytes of storage at roughly 2,400 Singapore dollars off contract. That's a lot of coin. That's a lot of money. And, you know, now you might be watching this in another country and going, well, we have this payment plan that you can pay every month, like 20, 30, 40 bucks a month on your phone plan to get a phone like that. That's great. Hopefully the telcos in Singapore start adopting that, because as of right now, for an average plan to get that phone, you still got to top up around $1,300, $1,400 out of your pocket. That's a lot for a telco to ask. Most people don't buy a phone off contract, but if you are on contract, you have to spend that much. Maybe they need to look at a different way of buying the phone. Do I think it's worth it? Again, subjective. Okay, another thing I'm not a big fan of is the lack of feature sets, especially with the iPhone XS Max. And the reason I say this is this. It's a big display. Why is it just a bigger iPhone? Yeah, for certain apps, you flip it a landscape, and like on New York Times, you get like 3 columns for reading your news or whatever the case is. In certain apps, you get double panes. But where's the multi-windows? Where's the multiple apps open at the same time? You can do it on the iPad. Why can't we do it here? Third thing is what comes inside the box. Of course, the headphone jack is gone. We know it, it's been gone for a while. But there's always been an adapter to plug in your headphones if you have wired headphones. That adapter's gone. Now you can buy that at the Apple store. I think it's like $9 or something for the adapter, but seriously, Apple, you're charging thousands of dollars for a phone. Put the $9 adapter in. Put it in. Really. Also, in terms of charging, these are capable of fast charging, all right? There's wireless charging, there's fast charging. They're capable of it, but they put a small charger in the box. If you want the fast charging power plug or power brick, however you want to call it, you have to buy that, and it's not cheap. Again, Apple, you're charging so much for the phone, at least put these things in there. It doesn't cost a lot to do. Really, it doesn't. And I feel like those are 2 things that Apple could have really like kind of beefed it up, because all other phone manufacturers out there are doing fast charging, and they're putting in these power bricks or power adapters that are charging phones really quickly, right? Apple has the ability to go quick charging. They could do it. Just put it in the box. Another thing I wish could be improved is the dual SIM feature. Now, yes, there is dual SIMs in the iPhone XS and XS Max, but they're not 2 physical SIMs. It's 1 eSIM, which is hardwired into the phone, and 1 physical SIM slot. Now, here's the thing. Not all countries support eSIM yet, especially in China, where you need 2 dual SIM cards, physical SIM cards. So it would have been nice if Apple would have given us the option here in Asia, at least, to buy the eSIM version or the dual SIM card slot version with 2 physical SIMs. So at least we have that option. If we travel back and forth to China, we can use it versus only being able to use 1 SIM card. But besides that, this is a good phone. Do I recommend it? Okay, I get this question a lot from people. Should I upgrade my phone? If you have an iPhone 10 to the XS, that's not really worth the upgrade right now. Okay? 6, 7, 8 to the XS Max, yes, I recommend the upgrade. You will not be disappointed. This phone has enough power until they get to the A13 Bionic Terminator chip that they come out with next year, which will be 30% more faster and probably will do other things, and maybe it will walk on its own and will save you and ride on a motorcycle. I don't know. But for the most part, this processor, this phone will last you a good solid 2 years. No qualms about it. Those are my thoughts on the iPhone XS, XS Max. What are your thoughts on the phone? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't need to troll us. We're not paid for this review, by the way. We get those in the comments below. I'm just letting you know we're not paid, okay? It's our thoughts and our thoughts only. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Until the next one, take care.